Welcome and thank you for joining us for tonight's second Family Forum of the day on January 26th. We have some announcements to review. I'm going to share a little bit of school-wide data, and then as always, there's time for question, answer, and discussion. There's a couple of reminders throughout this presentation that if you have not recorded your name in the chat for attendance purposes, please do that. If you do have a question about any information that I share during this presentation, you can definitely leave your question in the chat. It'll be one of the first ones I answer when we do Q&A. And if it's a really burning question, feel free to come off mute and ask it in the moment. So we're going to get started. And we're going to start off with some good news that we have to share here in 2021. We've really been looking for our good news. So the first thing that I wanted to share with everybody who's logged on is that we have an active fundraising campaign for Miss Paulino Trisdorfer's dance classroom. And I'm very, very proud to say that we've raised over $2,500. This total was actually from this morning, and a couple $100 have come in since then. So we are now less than $500 from our ultimate goal, which is absolutely amazing. We have had a lot of donors from the Henry community, as well as some donors across the city, and we got a lot of attention on social media. So we even have some donors from other cities who just read about our program and wanted to contribute. So I just dropped the link for our fundraising campaign in the chat. We're going through a branch of the school districts of Philadelphia called Philly Fundamentals. It's the first time that we've done a school-wide fundraising grant through Philly Fundamentals. And the reason that we did it this way, it is very similar to a more familiar program like Donors Choose or adoptaclassroom.org, but Philly Fundamentals allows us to have a little bit more flexibility with where we choose to purchase our items. And so we've been able to get a couple different quotes from different vendors just to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck. So we are very excited about the progress so far. The money raised is going to go towards purchasing Mylar dance mirrors, which are non-breakable mirrors. We're purchasing 4 on wheels so that they can be used in the auditorium for performances as needed. And they are lightweight and very safe for a school environment. So we're really excited about that. Please spread the word if you'd like to help us meet our goal. Additionally, I'm very proud to share that we will be a featured school in the Philadelphia Tribune's Learning Key. That is the section of the Tribune. It's all electronic right now, but they like to highlight a different school across the city. I believe it's once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. We were also featured last year, so this is our second year in a row. I will definitely share it across the school when it comes out, but I was interviewed last week and I talked a lot about the ways that we're expanding our arts programming at Henry, as well as a special partnership that we have with WHYY this year and the work of our 4th grade teachers and students. So definitely look for that when it comes out and check us out. All right, moving on to some more general announcements. School selection is the process where our 8th graders apply to high school, and then any student who currently attends Henry but wants to attend a different school across the city can apply. And any family who doesn't attend Henry, they don't live in our catchment, but they would like to come, can also apply to be on the wait list. So the school selection portal, this is slightly incorrect. It was supposed to close yesterday at midnight, but I saw that it was extended through today. So families had a little bit more time to make a final selection. But I just wanted to share, this is more good news. We are so incredibly proud of our 8th graders. Every single one of our 8th graders, we have 55 8th grade students, were all accepted to at least one of the high schools that they specifically chose and applied to. So you'll see from this list, we have our students going to a number of different high schools. They sent off their acceptances by yesterday. So we have students going to some really amazing magnet programs, students who are going into some awesome CTE programs, students who are staying in our neighborhood schools, and we're just really, really proud of it. This is also the first year that we've had students in our autistic support classroom graduate in 8th grade. And so the application process for those students is a little bit different, and we're just really, really, really happy with the results. Any family who applied to a magnet middle school has until the end of the day today to determine if they're going to accept if their child was approved or decline. And if a family applied to a magnet middle school and their child was on the wait list, there will be a second round of acceptances coming out in mid-February. All of this is done online on the student portal or the parent portal. Along the same line, some updates around registration for next school year. I know it feels very early, but we've kicked off the process for students and families to register for the 21-22 school year. It is all online. I spoke a little bit about it in the last family forum we had 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to give an update. So kindergarten registration has begun for next year. Right now, we are enrolling families who live in our catchment. So it's all online and it would come up after you put in your address that CW Henry is your neighborhood school. If you have a child in grades 1st to 8th grade and we are your catchment school, or you applied through school selection through the wait list, all of that registration happens in early August. We're not able to do it before that time. So, and that will most likely continue to be online. Any family who applied to kindergarten and they're out of catchment and they're on the wait list, if your child is a sibling, I ask that you send me an email directly to let me know, because I just have to do a little bit of behind the scenes to make sure that siblings are accepted. And I just want to clarify on that. The School District of Philadelphia doesn't have a formally written policy on siblings for out of catchment, but it is a practice that we follow year after year. So at this point, we are moving forward with enrolling siblings for next year of any currently enrolled student or student who will be enrolled next year. The family did need to participate in school selection. So that has obviously ended at this time. If anybody has a specific question about that, of course, you can always reach out to my secretary. She has access to all of the same information that I have access to, or reach out to me. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about some instructional updates. So the second marking period of this Q2 is coming to a close. Our teachers' gradebooks close tomorrow, January 27th at 5 o'clock. So then on January 28th, we kick off the third marking period. It's hard to believe. I did want to let everybody know that we will be having virtual report card conferences next week, beginning Wednesday, February 3rd, Thursday the 4th, and Friday the 5th. These are all afternoon conferences between 1 and 3 o'clock. A couple teachers have already shared virtual sign-up sheets, but if you haven't heard from your teacher yet, most teachers haven't had the chance to do it yet. They'll be coming out very soon. If the 1 to 3 o'clock range doesn't work for you and your personal schedule, I would encourage you still to meet with your child's teacher, ask them, is there another time that will work for them? Because we're virtual, we have the ability to be a little bit more flexible than we do in person. The only other thing I like to share with families about report card conferences is reminding you that they are very short. They're usually 10, 15 minutes at the max. So if you do have more to talk to your child's teacher about, or you have some concerns, I just would say on the front end, communicate that to them so that they can schedule more time with you rather than feeling really rushed and like you're not able to get through everything at the end of next week. Still continuing with instruction, but thinking about assessment, our younger students, kindergarten to 5th grade, are completing their second round of Ames Web. We call it our winter assessment in reading and math. The Ames Web assessments are really important because these are the measures that are used consistently across all district schools in the School District of Philadelphia. And there's a number of different subtests that students take depending on the grade level. So some of the tests are as short as 60 seconds and they're administered by a teacher. And some of the tests for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, they log on by themselves. If you've heard your child talk about TestNav, that's the Ames Web platform. And some of those can take 5 to 10 minutes per subtest. But teachers are scheduling it. It's happening during the day. And the Ames Web and STAR window is closing this Friday, January the 29th. So in an upcoming family forum, I'm definitely going to share some information talking about the performance levels we're seeing across our school and hopefully the growth that we've seen from the first marking period through to the second. And then last but not least, and this is going to take us into the next slide, I did just want to share with families that as a staff, we've had a lot of honest and just very real conversations about what does it mean to grade during a pandemic, and truthfully how intricate and difficult that is, knowing that there are so many things out of our control as educators and things going on in the home that truly have impacted students' performance. So for some kids, we've seen differences from what their report cards and performance in school looked like from last year to this year. So as a staff, we're definitely taking an individualized approach. We do still have to grade. We follow the grading guidelines that are mandated by the School District of Philadelphia. But I will say in the past couple of days, I've had a lot more one-on-one conversations with teachers around increased flexibility for assignments that might be missing, or if we've truly seen students put in additional effort in the past couple of days, ways that we can support them in being more flexible and more forgiving, because we know how difficult it is. On this slide, I just wanted to compare. On this left-hand side, you'll see a breakdown of the percentage of students across the entire city. You'll see over 100,000 kids are in this chart. And this is the percentage of students who are earning A's and B's in the core courses of ELA, math, science, and social studies. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, side by side, you see a comparison of the 470 students currently enrolled at Henry. And this is just for the first marking period. This doesn't take quarter 2 into consideration. So you'll see that through the first marking period, we had almost 60% of our students across the entire school, K-8, earn A's and B's, only A's and B's in their core courses, a slight dip from last year, like almost 4% less. But you will see that there isn't too much of too large of a discrepancy across each of the 4 courses. There's absolutely still work to do, but I was glad to see that the discrepancies were not enormous. Unfortunately, there are some schools where large numbers of kids have failed or are doing very, very poorly in this virtual environment. And it's just my goal as a school leader to keep a pulse to make sure that that's not happening at Henry. So I look forward to seeing what trends we see when the quarter 2 closes after tomorrow. Okay, shifting gears again, I want to talk just briefly about phase 1 reopening. That's been a common trend in these family forums, and quite honestly, the reason that they started in the first place, planning for reopening. So each time I try to give an update of what I know about school reopening, and each time I always say, I'm waiting to hear, I'm waiting to hear. So I just want to say to you all very clearly that school leaders have not received a confirmed reopening date yet, but I do expect one by the end of the week. I'm thinking it might even come tomorrow because we have a principal town hall. There have absolutely been rumors, lots of rumors on social media. Dr. Haidt has spoken about it to a number of different reporters. It's been on the radio. After winter break, they were talking about kids coming back in January and then February. We all know February starts next week, so our kids are not coming back on Monday. But we're going to have to see what happens. A couple reminders, just because I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but October feels like a lifetime ago to me. That was when we were considering the last phase of reopening, the last potential reopening. So a couple of reminders. During that time, first of all, the phase 1 of reopening still is only for kindergarten, first and second grade students. I have not received any information that more students are being considered at this time. We did survey K-2 families in October, early November, and asked families to choose if they wanted to remain 100% virtual or opt into a hybrid model, which is 2 days a week. That's the first bullet point you see right there. The AABB model, meaning your child would come Monday, Tuesday, or they would come to school Thursday, Friday. And Wednesday will be a fully virtual day for students and staff to allow for deep cleaning in the school building. From what I know at this time, the school district is planning to continue with the data that they collected in the fall, and families have been locked in to the choices that they made. I've heard some pushback on this already. Obviously, the virus and the way our city is dealing with it is very different now in January than it was in October. I hope to find out tomorrow if families will have another chance if they've changed their mind. Another thing I'd like to say about this, and we talked about it in previous months, is that at Henry, we did see a higher percentage of students in K2 opt into hybrid than most other schools across the city. We had conversations with families, and many folks said that they really wanted to make sure that their family still had an option, because if you opt into hybrid, you could revert to virtual, but if you chose virtual, you were not going, they didn't say when you'd be able to opt into hybrid. So we're gonna have to see what happens when it comes time to actually reopen the building, but I wouldn't be surprised, I think people are in a different place now than they were in October. The other thing we talked a lot about in the fall, and is continues to be in the news, is the status of the ventilation in school district of Philadelphia buildings. So in the fall, we talked about the air balancing reports. These reports are all still available on the school district's website. And in the fall, I believe we had 9 classrooms that were listed as 0 occupancy due to insufficient ventilation. So over the winter, a lot of repairs have been happening. If you've driven by the Henry building, there's a lot of repairs that have been happening this week. There's a lot of trucks outside. And that right now, it has to do with univent repair, which has to do with our ventilation and air circulation. So just an update, 2 more classrooms have been repaired. That's Ms. Bidow's classroom 106, as well as Ms. Canarini's social studies classroom 209. And they're fixing the ventilation in the main office as well. So each time the ventilation systems are repaired, the company comes out and does an additional report, and then it will be updated on the school district's website. But the most recent one is available. I believe it's on the homepage if you just search for it. I know we always have a lot to say about reopening and questions. So I just wanted to pause at this time and ask if anyone had a question about reopening before I continue. There's only one more announcement. Okay, save it for the end. So this is just a reminder, and I shared this last time, but we do have 2 upcoming extracurricular opportunities. The first one is a partnership between Ms. Paulino Trisdorfer, our dance teacher, and Mr. Peoples, our first grade teacher. And they're having a dance and yoga club specifically for young men, boys in grades 4 to 8. Our male students. So they've creatively called it the Boys to Men Club. It's going to focus on dancing and yoga, some mindfulness, and just helping our young people, young males specifically, develop a stronger sense of self and feel comfortable with one another. So Mr. Peoples does yoga and mindfulness teaching, I believe, in his spare time. And Ms. Paulino has taught dance for many, many years. So we have a number of kids who've already signed up. I do think that there's some flexibility if you are the parent of a male student lower than 4th grade. I do think that they're accepting some more kids. So if you think this would be a good fit for your child, just shoot Nikki an email. The club has not started yet. It's starting next week, I believe. Somebody this morning asked me what day it was. I think it's on Tuesdays, but I need to check. Oh, it says it right there. It's on Mondays. I don't think that's changed. And then last but not least, if you are the parent of an upper school student, our 8th grade teachers, they have not started yet, but they're seeking 8th grade student support in creating the yearbook, our digital yearbook. It is Tuesday. Thanks, Jenny. I thought it was Tuesday. The flyer needs to be updated. All right. So that brings us to the end of our announcements and the information for today. At this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You can feel free to drop a question or a comment in the chat or come off of mute if you have something that you'd like to ask. And just a reminder that if you joined us a little bit later, if you could just drop your name in the chat. I see a lot of people doing that now. Thank you. Any questions?
I had a question. I'm sorry, I can't type fast enough to put it in the chat. My daughter's in 2nd grade. I missed the beginning of the meeting, so I apologize if you talked about this. I got an email about Picture Day, and they actually had a date for it. So I wasn't sure what was going on with that.
Thank you for asking. That came up this morning as well. That date has been on the calendar since September. I apologize. It was originally for December, and I think the company's reaching out to any families who purchased pictures in the past. So it will be rescheduled for whenever school is open again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hi, I've got one. Sorry, I'm cooking dinner.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that you have not received any updates about when teachers can get vaccinated. I think they're in the next wave of folks who can get,
No, I'm waiting as well, anxiously. So,
Yeah.
no, so far, as I know, the only employees in the district who've been vaccinated so far are school nurses, because they are in category 1A, as well as school psychologists. So the district is doing, they have a district-wide approach. Staff members are getting dates scheduled with them through the Office of Talent. And then there's a high school hub where people are going to get their vaccines. I don't know if it's going to be the same for teachers and administrators. I'm waiting to see, because there's a lot of people working in buildings currently with no vaccine. So
Okay.
we gotta see.
Thanks.
Yeah. The only other thing I can share about that is that I think this went to all staff, not just teachers and administrators, but we were surveyed. Are we interested in the vaccine? But that's it. No other news.
Ms. Davis, it's Jennifer Byers. With regard to the remediation for the ventilation, are there details on the site, or I'm just curious, I mean, does Ms. Biddow's room got fixed mean they can open a window now, or is there actual ventilation in there?
No, it means that the univents that were not running are currently running.
Okay.
So
it's an actual vent. It's like an extraction.
It's like the heater system that sometimes it blows hot air, sometimes it just blows cool air. And so I think that the motors were non-functional and now they function.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, and it's online. The space that I'm waiting most anxiously for is our school cafeteria. It is still rated at 0 occupancy. Hi, Melanie, I see your question in the chat. What's the likelihood of reopening and what are the reasons that this might not occur? That's a really large question. I'm not sure that I could answer. I don't, the likelihood of reopening. In the news, there's just been a lot of conversations with the school district as well as the PFT, the teachers union, CASA, that's the administrators union. Dr. Haidt has said very boldly that our reopening is not tied to a vaccine schedule, which unions have strong feelings about. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the district, and there's just been a lot of back and forth. So I'm not really sure sort of where the chips will fall, if you know what I mean. But I think that's the main reason, making sure that staff are appropriately protected before they come back into the building. In addition to ventilation, I will say across the Northwest region, C.W. Henry School has some of the better ventilation numbers compared to some of the other local schools. There are a fair number of schools in Mount Airy, Germantown, Roxborough, Manayunk that are not ready to open because a large percentage of their classrooms are still rated at zero occupancy, which is not the case for for Henry, excuse me. So we'll have to see. There are some other schools also where they might run into some staffing issues, a lot of teachers out on leave or accommodation. Again, that was not going to be the case for C.W. Henry School. So I see another question. Renee asked, is planning for the fall underway with respect to in-person learning? No, we are not there yet. I think we need to see if we're going to reopen in person in the springtime first. Any other questions?
Can I ask a follow-up to that? I was just interested in why the registration started so early for kindergarten. Maybe it always has, and I didn't know. If there's not also planning for the fall.
Kindergarten for next year? Yeah, this is the time it always happens. So usually, honestly, online registration has never existed before virtual. It's usually in person. So we don't usually talk about it as much. But yeah, school selection always happens from September to November, and then kindergarten registration always starts in January. And I don't know, honestly, I'm sure there's a reason for it. I don't know why kindergarten starts so early. I think it has to do with, in Pennsylvania, kindergarten is not mandatory, and the funding for our kindergarten programming is federally funded. It's not coming out of the same budget lines for the rest of our teachers. So like for kindergarten, once it's filled up, it's filled up. We can't go past 60 slots. But for the rest of the school, we have rolling admissions throughout the year. There's another question if there's any word on the PSSA for this school year. No, there is not any update at this time. I will say, just in terms of standardized testing in general, if you're an educator, you know about this, but there is another standardized test called the Access exam. That's for students who have English language learner status. That always happens earlier in the school year than the PSSA, and the school district seems like they are moving forward with access testing for students who are English language learners. They're just figuring out ways to do it differently. So I don't know if that's going to have any impact on the PSSA. We will have to see. But quite honestly, it has not been a discussion from school district leadership yet. Any other questions? You're welcome. Okay, so I think it's dinner time for most folks. We're going to wrap up now, but if you have a question specific for you, you can feel free to hang back. I'll be here for a couple more minutes, but otherwise, I hope everybody has a great night. And our next family forum is in 2 weeks, 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Thanks, everyone.